How college students use the web to conduct everyday life research. First, before we start, I want you to meet Hazel. Hazel's a college sophomore.
Since I am in my early 20s, I'm in a crucial time for learning and applying problem-solving skills. I have to perform information-seeking tasks for school, work, and my daily life, sometimes for the first time. Because of all this, my information-seeking activities may be equally or more complex for me than for a full-fledged adult that has already adjusted to life at large.
The factors Hazel described make the college student a unique cohort group to study. Today, an unprecedented number of students were even born digital. Born digital? New digital technologies are a constant feature in most of today's college students' lives. For this generation, information-seeking strategies are being formed, practiced, and learned, and these methods are put to the test in the vast information landscape of their college years. Scholars in library and information science have long been concerned about college students and their information problem-solving strategies. Because of this, information literacy has been identified as an essential element of a library's mission in college settings and in public and private school settings. But only 13% of a sample of high school seniors and college students could be considered information literate. Most college students have little or no knowledge of the ongoing scholarly research process, and most students are frustrated by the ambiguity of intellectual discovery, struggling with finding different contexts in everyday life research. Regardless of the abundant online and offline sources, many students rely on a small collection of tried and true sources: search engines, Wikipedia, and course readings. The authors additionally defined everyday life information seeking and information grounds. Everyday life information seeking is when individuals engage in hobbies and seek practical information shaped and solely driven by their personal values and attitudes. Information grounds are purposeful and temporary places where serendipitous and informal information sharing occurs. Nearly 70% of college students visit some sort of information ground daily. Researchers found students frequently exchanged everyday life information in bars, coffee shops, and/or hallways outside of class. For this study, the researchers identified 5 questions. Number 1, what personal information needs occur in the daily lives of students? Number 2, what sources do students consult for finding everyday life information? What predictors reveal which type of students are more or less likely to use search engines such as Google for solving information problems? Number 4, what evaluation criteria do students use to judge the quality of sources they have found, and whom do students ask for help with evaluating life information sources? And 5, what is difficult about conducting everyday life research? For the research, the researchers had 11 student focus groups aged 20 to 30 years old. All of the students were full-time sophomores, juniors, and seniors from 4-year public and private colleges and universities and full-time community college students. They were primarily students in the humanities or social sciences that are familiar with desk research, and 70% of the participants were female. From the research, they found 3 kinds of information needs: searching for information to satisfy a curiosity, like when did the Boer War end, find a fact quickly, like when is the Hunger Games opening, or solve a specific information problem. Well, that's riskier and more complicated searches. These searches sometimes lasted for days, like what does a diagnosis of a cancer and a relative mean? Everyday research can be circuitous and time-consuming, and it does not involve the same type of research skills as course-related research does. Often a lot is at stake with everyday research. The only way to find out if you are right is to go out into the world and see if your answer works for you. Nearly all participants agreed they were more caught up and engaged in everyday life research than with course-related research. This was especially true when searches were meant to solve information problems with higher stakes or real-life consequences, like the student learning how to cure ham. Survey participants demonstrated a strong need to know what is going on in the world beyond the campus. 79% of the students had searched for news more than anything else in the past 6 months. Yet as a whole, the majority of students' information needs were directly related to personal decisions made in their daily lives. The information for making decisions. Results reveal surveyed students had an underlying hierarchy to their information needs. Most sought information to stay current. 2/3 of the sample looked for information about making decisions directly related to their individual lives, purchasing something, health, wellness, finding a job, and trip planning, and few respondents appear to search for information that might lead to a community involvement or civic engagement. Almost all relied on the same few information sources for finding everyday life information. Most even mentioned Google by name, citing its familiarity and accessibility. Several students also reported that search engines help provide a consensus on information. If they find the same information on several pages, it must be reliable, right? Additionally, 9 or 10 students reported using Wikipedia for everyday life research, even citing a Google Wikipedia relationship. As one student stated, I don't really start with Wikipedia. I Google something, and then a Wikipedia entry usually comes up early on. So I guess I use both in a kind of two-step process. Over 87% turned to family and friends and classmates for everyday life information. Over 53% turned to instructors, and 14% turned to librarians. Convenience was a big factor for prioritizing the use of certain sources, both computer and human. One student noted, I'll only ask a person for everyday life information if they're closer than my computer. Other sources cited were the student's own documentary collection, government websites, social networks like Facebook, online research databases like JSTOR, EBSCO, and ProQuest, online and print encyclopedias, although they may not be able to do that much longer, and campus library shelves. Findings also suggest that respondents are driven by familiarity and habit. However, they may also have a need for authoritative fact-finding sources through the library when conducting everyday life research. Specific student characteristics on whether they used a search engine or not were they examined the information needs, the information resource usage, and the major area of study. The strongest predictor of someone using an online resource was someone looking for information about purchasing something. 3 other predictors were someone who used blogs for everyday life research, or government sites for everyday research, or Wikipedia. Respondents looking for spiritual information about a group and/or beliefs were less likely to use search engines than those not looking for spiritual beliefs. Most search for information involve sizing up the information quality of a source once it's found. The researchers used 3 criteria to judge sources: self-taught criteria, traditional standards from the print world, and domain-specific standards. Overall, the results found that most respondents were frequent evaluators of information for personal use, and most relied on self-taught criteria, usually scrutinizing the site's design. Additional criteria was the site's familiarity and previous use of the site, traditional and formal standards like timeliness and authority. They look for the date in the footer, the origin of the site's URL, origin or site's URL, and or author's credentials. Only 11% considered whether a librarian referred the site. The least applied standard were the domain-specific standards, criteria specific to the internet like linkage, footer details, and credited sources. 83% turned to friends or family members to help evaluate sources for personal use. 74% asked classmates. 45% asked instructors. For sure, I asked them for their knowledge and experiences so I don't have to learn the hard way by having a bad experience. 14% asked librarians. The research found that most problems experienced during the later stages of the search process involved using the information results, finding the right source that's exactly what you're looking for, and filtering relevant and non-relevant results, and locating information they just know exists. Another problem demonstrated by the research was that even the most poorly constructed search query is likely to return results when a search engine is used. However, making sense of the results, deciding and prioritizing relevance is much more complex and challenging. To wrap it up, the study revealed that many college student searches involve decision-making to resolve a specific problem with real-life consequences. These searches take more time, sometimes going on for days, and not surprisingly, almost all the participants agreed that everyday life research was far more engaging than course-related research.